Hi everybody, and welcome to my education plan video. My name is Orca Chong and I am currently a nurse at St. John Regional Medical Center here at Oxnard, California. I have here with me today, we have three stakeholders for my clinical scholarly project. The first person, his name is John. He's a nurse from Ford North. He is a representative of the nursing group. The next one is Jane. She is a union rep. And the last person I have is Joseph, the director for the MedSurg, who represents administration and management. I have asked each of them to come to my meeting so I can introduce my clinical scholarly project for my doctorate of nursing practice. The project that I have chosen, my overall project, is to reduce stress in nursing profession. I'd like to educate you today on the value of my project, how you will be informed during my project, the progress of my project, and how you can help facilitate this project. We all know that nursing is a stressful career, whether it's pressure to get things done, the responsibility that we bear, or the empathy that we share with the patients and their families, such as like during a code or a critical care event. Charge nurses have even more responsibility. They include patient movement, assigning nurses to their groups, making sure that everybody's okay. They help out with patients who are crashing. So they have a lot more increased responsibility than just a regular floor nurse, so they experience a lot more stress. Now, the stress can lead to compassion fatigue, reluctance to care, job dissatisfaction, and even burnout. And burnout can lead to a number of call-outs, unsafe shortcuts to policies and procedures, medication errors, workplace injuries, and a decrease in productivity. Stress does reverberate outwards, so patients will feel it. They might not get as good quality of care, and you as the organization might also feel it as a financial burden as well. First, I'd like to throw some numbers out at you. In 1998, there was a survey that was sent out in Pennsylvania that reached over 168 hospitals and that hit about over 10,000 nurses. Now, 43% of the nurses who responded reported some sort of high burnout. They had some sort of portion of job dissatisfaction with their current job. And nurses tend to have about 4 times of higher job dissatisfaction than other professions. And in the same survey, 20% of them intended to quit their job within the next year. So that's pretty high numbers. In the Journal of Nursing Administration, they report the average turnover cost for nurses is anywhere between $10,000 to $64,000. $10,000 being like a med-surg nurse, and the $64,000 being a critical care nurse. Now this is per nurse, by the way. The Joint Commission, on the other hand, had a turnover rate for a med-surg nurse at about $46,000. The average turnover rate is about 15% for the 15% annually for an inpatient nurse, and it is higher for critical care nurses, which is about 26%. The turnover budget for healthcare workers was reported to be at least between 3.4 to 5.8% of the annual operating budget, so it can be up in the millions. Now, these numbers are very high, and I've asked each of the representatives for stakeholders to join me. As nurses, this will help you have an interest in this because it helps decrease your stress overall, and this is important to the survival of your career and the stamina and the endurance. Jane, as a union rep, you have the best interests at heart for your nurses. Joseph, as a director of MedSurg, you have both the interests of the nurses and the management, what the management needs, and want to make sure that things follow, and so you kind of have the combination of the two. You want to make sure that the budget is met, but at the same time you want to make everybody happy and satisfied with their job. You also have the headache of recruiting and retraining nurses as people leave, so you would have an interest in this project as well, so that way you have a decrease in your own workload as well. So I understand that stress is individually perceived. It is very subjective. Therefore, my project proposal for this is kind of low-key, and it is aiming at individual senses of stress. I want to create a calming environment while the nurses are on break. I'd like to put a diffuser with aromatherapy into the break room, just so that way nurses can, take a nice deep breath and just kind of let out whatever stress that they have, even for that brief second. What will also be available to them is an app called MindShift, and this one is like an app to help meditate or help facilitate mindfulness teaching. They do have 5-minute listenings, 15 minutes, up to 30 minutes as well. I will also provide a journal, so that way nurses can write down, their thoughts, their opinions, what have you, so that way they can just have like that outlet release, that releaser that sometimes, I can't always tell the nurse next to me about what's going on, so the ability to write it down. And then I understand that they have other abilities too, like their phone or their coworkers or their friends, but this one's personal, and they can write things down, and it's really nice. The nurses that I need for this trial, I'll need at least 10 nurses for this trial. It will take about 3 months to do. I will probably teach them, each nurse will probably take about 10-15 minutes to teach. I'll need incremental follow-ups thereafter throughout the 3 months. Each incremental follow-up will probably be about 10 minutes. There will also be the journals available to them, and I could look at the journals if they want me to, or they could just, keep that as their personal diary. The journal is really just like a supplemental to them to help write things down, and that activity of getting the stressors out there. Now the project, this cost is about $770. This is compared to the turnover cost of about $30,000 that I mentioned earlier. We're just going to take an average between the $10,000 and the $46,000 for a med-surg nurse, and I got about $20–30,000. So keep in mind that, if you are able to even have one nurse stay, you are already saving about $29,000. So that to me is a very good investment into this project and into what I will need to be to complete. Also, I will need your permission and your support for the project. I will need permission to approach the nurses so I can receive at least 10 nurses for the study. I will inform you of certain follow-up markers. The first one will be after I found my 10 nurses, 10 people agreed to help me with my study. After I have educated them on how to use the diffuser, on how to use the app, and just that, that breathing technique that you learn as well. So I will also inform you when the trial starts, the midway follow-up, the completion of the trial, and then finally the concluding results. So once I'm done and putting everything all together in a nice little package, I will deliver it to you as well. Now, since this is a nursing project, my nursing theory is borrowed from Hans Seville, is a general adaptation syndrome and theory of stress. This theory is based on that stress is perceived both as a physiological and a psychological in nature. Stress can be challenge, a threat, or demand that is placed on the organism, which is, in this case is the nurse. The organism will respond to the stress in 3 different stages. The first one is alarm, resistance, and then exhaustion. In the alarm stage, the body initially reacts to the stress in a type of fight or flight response. Here you'll see the cortisol and the adrenaline release into the body or into the bloodstream, and this is when the nurses kind of get their report and they kind of get their things together and they just kind of act out throughout the day. Stage 2 is the resistance, where the parasympathetic nervous system normalizes that bodily function. So it'll kind of help decrease the cortisol and the adrenaline, and it'll have a focus to help fight against this stress. So go against the alarm stage. The body will also then experience the exhaustion phase, where the stress has remained too long and now the organism is out of resources for the body to fight. And this is where the body might become susceptible to health and survival needs. And this is the body's fight to return to a homeostasis stage. Now, resilience is a term used for when a person can quickly recover from stress. And for my project, I'd like to help in the stage 2 realm where the nurses, not exactly the sense of stress, but the way to help the quick relief of the stress, to get their cortisol and adrenaline levels back down, and for them to, so they can be more resilient, and therefore they have more stamina and more endurance throughout their day. And this can even be helpful for each time they take a break, and even if they want to go home, they can take a step into the break room and have that nice deep breath before they go home. Now again, I'd like you guys to join me I'd like to thank you for being here, part of my education video plan. And again, this is my clinical scholarly project to reduce stress in nursing. I have 3 stakeholders with me. I have the nurses, I have the union rep, and I have administration and management. And each one has an interest, somewhat of an interest into this role. And we all know that stress is very felt and very real. It does have a high turnover rate. There are consequences to these, such as med errors, call outs, and what have you. Also, as well, my clinical scholarly project will be focused on reducing stress in nursing. Again, I'd like to thank you guys for coming to my video. I just want to say some quick references, which is Akeen, Clark, and Sloan. For hospital nurse and staffing and mortality rate, the nurse burnout job satisfaction, Jones, the costs and nursing turnover, an economic perspective, the Joint Commission, the healthcare and crossroads strategies for addressing an evolving nursing crisis, and the last one is Strakota, Normandy, O'Brien, Clary, and Crowrow, reasons registered nurses leave or change their employment status. Again, thank you for joining us. You have a very blessed day.